All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Apprentice Worldwide event. This is probably one of our last ones. We actually have one more next Thursday from the technology team. But this is a very special event for me, something that we have been discussing for a while. Um, I'll share a little bit about Apprentice Worldwide before we begin. So Apprentice Worldwide is a career development organization that started in 2014. I started it to help college students in their transition into the real world. Uh, and it was started by a bunch of people in students in the University of Miami from my business fraternity. And then I realized that these people needed help as they transition into the real world. They felt a little lost. So I said, you know what? I have a lot of friends, a lot of amazing friends, as you can probably see here if you're in the Zoom and you'll meet them in a little bit. And these people want to help people out. So I decided to bring people together to help the next generation of leaders. And we started in Miami. Now we're in 43 countries, locations, actually, throughout the United States, Latin America, Africa, Asia, and Europe. And in the middle of the pandemic, in the worst of times, quote unquote, we got the award by Corporate Vision as the best, and you can see yourself in the picture, the best emerging career development organization of 2020 in the world. Can you believe that? Amazing. And this is all because of you guys. All because of you. All I do is, point people in different directions. But the reality is, without you, we couldn't help the people, right? So again, I want to thank you all for giving up your time. I love you guys so much. You guys are amazing human beings. It just blows my mind how much love is in this organization. And we help with career development. We have around 15, 16 different global industry groups. So all the lawyers, all the people in health, all the marketing, all the accountants, right? All the bankers, they all hang out in little groups together. And we also meet locally. Eventually, we're all going to meet locally. So the people in the Dominican Republic, you're going to get together and celebrate together very soon. Okay, I hope so. Colombia, Chile, Peru, Argentina. We continue to meet each other and celebrate our lives and our careers together. So this event is actually the brainchild of Bianca Lahara. So Bianca is an senior associate for us in the Dominican Republic. She actually wrote a book about the subject of mental health herself because she was struggling with certain issues at the age of around 25. And I won't share my age because it's a secret. But many, many months ago, more or less around the same time, I went through a similar situation and depression. My dad passed away when I was 26 years old. And, I thought that I had everything, that I had a career, was, as a top banker. And then I felt very depressed. I didn't know what to do. And I found people that helped me, but I didn't have mentors. It could have gone in a ugly direction. Okay. And I made it through my friends, right? And it seems to be that this time, right, when you graduate, and between 20 and say 30, but say 28, 27, people struggle a lot. And if I'm going to share some statistics with you guys, and you're going to tell me if you can see my screen, okay? Give me 1 second. Okay, go like this if you can see my screen. You can, okay. So these are several statistics that I wanted to share with you, and it's in my Google Photos. Let me see if I can click here. So these are some of the issues. So 45% of students who dropped out of college for mental health reasons did not receive the mental health assistant. 46% of college students report academics as having been traumatic and very difficult to handle. Mental illness, 50% received no education on mental health. 30% reported problems with schoolwork due to mental health issues. 1 out of 3 students reported prolonged periods of depression. 1 out of 7 students reported engaging in abnormal, reckless behavior. 50% of students rated their mental health below average. 50%. It doesn't get any easier. Students of color feel less academically and emotionally prepared for college. However, Caucasian students are more likely than African Americans and Hispanic students to say they feel more academically prepared than their peers. Caucasian students are also most likely than African American students to feel more emotionally prepared than their peers. But I will share some statistics that will open your mind a little bit. But before that, let's talk about the people that don't have jobs, right? Problems facing the young unemployed. So they say that 1 out of 10 young people often feel anxious. Half of them unemployed are down and depressed. 42% often feel isolated. 46% of unemployed young people avoid meeting people, right? More than a third of the unemployed young people report anxiety. Problems at home. Their parents say that their average time that they should stay at home after they graduate is 3 years. The students, the young professionals think it's 5 years. So they're getting pressure to getting kicked out of their house, right? Getting shoved out. 70% are avoiding responsibility. 65% are avoiding their stay. They don't do their chores. Their parents pressure them that they should pay their apartment. Let's talk about Latin America. Interesting. Around 30 million of the region's young people between 15 and 29, or 22% of the total, don't study or have paid work according to the figures. So, the bracket of young adults, 22% of young adults, right, don't have it in their mind or their situation to study. Top concerns in college. Again, 55% are anxious, 45% are depressed, and so on and on. This is an interesting one, and it's in 2013. What you study isn't always where you work. 64% think that I'm going to study in the field, but 53%, so check this out. The majority of them have to start outside of their field, right? So that's also brings a lot of stress. They have to commute farther. They have to look in other cities. Interesting, another one, people in the ages of 25 to 30 still living at home. In Japan, 43% still live at home at the age of 30. Right? I can go on and on and on and on, right? But this is what happens. This is the pressure that young professionals feel. And this is why, Bianca and I probably were scratching our heads at 25 going, what the heck have I been thrown into? And then, so let me share this one. African American students are less likely than Caucasian students to say they feel more pressure to drinking alcohol than they were in college, and that drinking alcohol is part of their college experience. So, you think the Caucasians are more normal than African Americans in this sense, but they drink a lot. The Caucasians drink a lot more. They don't succumb to that pressure, right? Still, problems all along. By the way, one last one. So this was an interesting. 9 out of 10 young people will receive negative reactions to their mental health diagnosis. Meaning, if you talk about that you have mental issues, right? People are gonna shove it off. They're gonna blow it off. Okay, Let me share. You guys seeing my screen still?
Oh.
Okay, this is important.
We can see it.
Everything that you can see it? Excellent. Everything that I shared with you was before the pandemic. Before the pandemic. So you think people have issues before the pandemic? And I just show it to you. Those are statistics from 2019. Look at some of the statistics from June 20th, 2020. Young adults, 1 out of 4 young adults between the ages of 18 to 24 say they have considered suicide because of the pandemic. 75% report at least one bad symptom of anxiety. Losses. They lose, they have restricted time with friends, virtual education, no sports, they can't hang out, right? We've had this discussion, May, with our kids, right? This is our new normal. You imagine that in 2019, this was not our life, and this is our life now, right? Young people have a low risk of dying from COVID-19, 0.1%. They die from suicide. They die from depression and substance abuse, right? And again, I am not the expert in this matter. I have the experts right here that are going to talk to you about why this is the case and how we can get through it, right? Grief of loss, right? People succumb to being online and they're addicted to these situations that are sometimes confusing. And they don't have the support group, right? They don't have the support group to help them with these situations. So I'll shut up, but I wanted to show the statistics just to showcase to you what we're living with. And we don't talk about it because we're highly motivated, right? The people in college are highly motivated. The careers are going, they wanna succeed. They're just brushed to the side, these issues, brush them to the side, right? So let's talk about this. I want to start today with, I have to start with my good friend and neighbor, Felix, which is a clinical psychiatrist. And all he does day in and day out is help people that are suffering from depression, adults with depression. But Felix, what do you think about all this thing that I shared? By the way, everybody except Felix, put your phones on mute or your computers on mute, okay?
As you show, Hernan, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you everybody for being here. By itself, okay, when you finish your college, when you are in that age, between 20, 25, 30, normally we have a lot of anxiety, we have a lot of depression, okay? Most of the time, the difference between the people with, let's say, clinical depression or clinical anxiety, as we call that, is a way that you function, okay? Let's say everybody here probably have in their past depression, anxiety, but they're able to keep working. Let's say you said that you lost your father, but you were able to keep going, and then you were able to, let's say, complete any of the tasks that you are supposed to do, okay? But when you have really bad depression or really bad anxiety or any other psychiatric problem, even people with schizophrenia that hear voices, and then it's that bad, and then that stop you to work, to have a good relation with your, let's say, your family, your friends, all that is a problem, okay? And then now, let's say, besides, as I said before, the stress that you got when you finish your college or any grade that you finish, and then when you had now this situation about the pandemic, about the COVID, people right now, as you show before, for example, the other day I was reading like let's say 1 out of 5 people that they have COVID, they end having some kind of psychiatric problem, even depression, even anxiety, or at the same time, people that may have depression in the past, or they have any other psychiatric problem, they end having major issues that maybe they end, for example, in a psychiatric unit at the ER, and then us as a psychiatrist, and for example, in the setting that I work, that for example, I work in a ER, I've been seeing more patients now, and then I've been seeing a lot of young kids, young people that they stop working, and then you mentioned, and also you show about the economic impact about not working, okay, and then all of these makes the things worse. And right now we are working a lot with the prevention of those problems with the young people, and then most of them, as you see, some of them they end with committing suicide, and then this is where you don't want to end, seeing somebody, young people dying because of this increase of depression and anxiety because of the pandemic. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Felix. Dr. Felix. Bianca, so you're a college professor, right? Talk to me about these statistics. You want to talk a little bit about you and maybe about these things that are happening with your students, and see how you make sense of some of these things.
First off, good night. Good evening to everyone. I first started, teaching in January 2017. And I've always had a load of 45 to 50 students, right? And teaching has always been very natural to me, or how students behave at that age is very appropriate, right? They don't want to be in class. They would rather, go to the cafeteria, hang out. That's fine. And some of them, one of my students is laughing because she's here. That's normal for a teenager, a young adult. Also, the partying, that's okay. Part of college is socializing. It's fine. But when the pandemic came in here in the Dominican Republic, we had to be in our houses since March, I believe it was. We had to do quarantine. And after 45 days or more, the curfew changed to being at home from 7 p.m. until 5 a.m. the next morning or 6 a.m. That has varied in the state of emergency due to COVID. The thing is that the teaching or school classes changed from being in class at the university to having virtual classes. And as the months rolled by, I started seeing more dropouts in the class, in the virtual classroom. I started seeing lower grades from students that are excellent students. I started seeing less questions. I am not tooting my own horn, but my class is fun, and Ileana can vouch for me, maybe, I hope, or contradict me, that's fine. And I was like, maybe I'm doing something wrong because I don't see the same interaction with my students that I've always had. Of course, I'm interacting with them via a laptop now. It's way hard. But then I had a student send a very particular essay that if you have been teaching for a couple of years, and maybe this is just me, sometimes you may tend not to really read these essays very in depth and just like go through over them and just find the keywords and be like, okay, that's a fine essay. But I sat down and read her essay, and the essay made no sense whatsoever. The student was talking about a theory of economics. I teach marketing. Not that it's not related, but that was not the case. She started talking about how she felt, and then started talking about animals. And then that was me. That was weird. That drew my attention. So I contacted, the secretary or administrative assistant in the school. And turns out, after due diligence from their ends, turns out that the student was schizophrenic, and she was sent to the to proper care from the college, that they have services for students, right? And I said, wow, that's crazy, because I taught her in class and she was perfectly fine, A grade student. But I guess that being in-house, you're dealing with your family, and intrafamiliar relationships can be difficult at that age. And then later on, and that's fine, that happened there. Later on, I teach another course, and I have a student that is just does not know how to handle he or she himself herself properly, via a virtual classroom. He or she, I don't want to say any names, is very inappropriate. Contacted me at very random hours, and I tried to ask other teachers and ask them, is it just me, or is this person having trouble coping with virtual classes? And effectively, he or she did. So I think, and that's just one out of 44 students, but the college I work in has over 5,000 students. So that started worrying me. And that's why I spoke to Hernan, and I told him, like, I remember when I was in college and I had a hard time, right? I suffered a lot of anxiety, depression, etc., because there was just too much pressure coming from everywhere. Career, I need to get a job, maybe I need to get a boyfriend, maybe I need, maybe I need to do better in classes. It's just like an age where you don't feel like you're ready to face what life has coming for you. So you're on the train and you're headed that way, but you have no idea what stop is it that you want to stop at. So I just thought this would be good. I am not a professional of mental health, not at all. I am not a specialist, not at all. I'm just someone concerned about this subject, because your brain, your behavior, your habits, this is why I'd rather call them mental disorders. You have to put them in order. If you have a problem, putting that in order, you need to get some assistance or some type of help. And I encourage anyone to seek out that help. And it's fine. If I'm overweight, I look for a health coach to help me out with my physical appearance. If I need heart surgery, I go to a professional. I don't do surgery on myself because I'm not a specialist. If I need a haircut, thank God, I don't cut my own hair. I go to a professionalist. And I think it's the same way with mental health. If I am having an issue, I would rather get help from a professional to let him or her help me out, And that's just the conversation that I wanted. I really told him now I wanted to start in apprentice and provide maybe a space that if any of the apprentices are having trouble, they can feel that they have people here that can maybe not give them therapy, of course, but talk about it. Let's just talk about it. Talking, and my sister can vouch for this. I was talking to her today. Talking helps so much. Talking to someone, it helps you see your thoughts and I would say conducta. Yeah, the way you manage yourself in the outside world, it helps you see yourself from a different perspective and help you learn if you're doing good stuff or if you're doing bad stuff, So I advocate for that entirely. And that's what I thought that it would to spark.
So this is spectacular, okay? So this is what we are doing, okay? This is what we're here, right? So let's talk about the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about the situations they go. So you went through it, right? I went through it in the past. Now let's talk a little bit about the people that are going through it, right? And I had a conversation with a person that I love so much. It's like kind of like my niece. Her mom is like my sister, and she told me, I'm trying to figure things out, and I just brought her and I said, you know what? come here and work with us in an internship. And I saw the difference when she came in and when she came out with confidence, right? And Valeria, maybe you want to talk a little bit about, you're the avatar here of the situation that is happening. And maybe later on, I want to go with Mariana, who's a mom of the other perspective of kids that are going through these issues and how she deals with it. So let me start with Valeria. ¿Qué pasa? What do you think about all this?
Well, it's hard.
How are you doing, by the way?
First of all, I'm from Mexico City, so let's start by saying security. So one of the issues I would like to add to everything you've said, it's really hard to go out and get a job when you can get killed. We're talking about 10 girls killed every single day in Mexico. So it's not only the stress of finding a job and having a lot of pressure on being successful and whatever, getting married or getting a partner and having a life, but also I don't want to die. So I studied political science and public administration and started working with refugees here in Mexico with the UN. And I love my job, but it's really frustrating to face all these cases of people suffering so much. And then just being able to help them from my house, because I can go out, not because only security, but COVID. So anyway, I can die, so there's no answer for that. So yeah, I started taking actually antidepressants. That's the way. Yeah, well, medicine like 3 months ago, because I graduated on December of the past year. And my mom was like super excited, you go find a job, and I was applying and everything, and then everything just stopped. Like people were getting fired, all the interviews were canceled, everything just stopped. So I'm very privileged that's something we have to talk if we're Latin Americans. I'm very privileged here in Mexico. So I have the opportunity and the privilege not to work and to keep on helping refugees. But I mean, I have the pressure that I want to help my mom. I want to give money to my house. I want to have money for myself, which I can't, because they're offering, for example, jobs of someone that just graduated for like, let me think what 5,000 pesos. It's like $2,000 for 8-hour work. What? $250. I'm so sorry. $250 a month for 8-hour. That was my mom. She's right here. So for 8-hour work with a college degree, that's what they're offering here. So just let me know if that's not an insult for you guys, because for me it is. That's what you get for working like on a McDonald's or something in some other country. So I was just telling my mom, like, I just graduated. I'm great at what I do. I will not like do this kinds. I rather work for a nan like I did on the summer without payment. And I think it's like also like an insult or something, because we don't have social security. We don't have security. No one cares about you. And then you get this money that doesn't even work for a rent or for food. It will mainly pay for gas, maybe, because we have a lot of traffic. And then I think Felix was saying this, but it's really hard. Prices on, buying. I remember my mom telling me, like, at your age, I had my own car. I was already like stable or whatever. And it's really hard right now because you get paid $250 for an 8-hour work and rents are over $500. And then they want me to buy a car and to buy a house with money I don't have and will never have probably. Well, no, I will. But it's really hard. It's really, really hard. Like combining all of this with the insecurity in the country and with not feeling like confident to go out to the street and look for a job. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. So I got into a crisis on the Mexico meeting. So that's why.
By the way, she's talking about we had a global showcase for Mexico. And by the way, all these things are recorded and shared in our YouTube. So if you ever wonder, you ever want to see all these things, we share it with the community. But Valeria, I love you so much, right? And I'm here for you always. And that to me is, it's probably the point that we're all trying to drive here, right? The important thing is we all go through these issues at some point here and there, and I don't want to. I want to talk to you a little more, and maybe when we switch to Spanish, we'll talk a little more. But I want to talk about me. So Mariana, also one of my best friends. We have teenage kids and college kids, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, first of all, I want to tell Valeria, since I'm in Argentina, the same thing happens to me with the dollar exchange. So I think that happens to many of our countries where we have a different, conversion, and money is worth nothing here. So even though I'm a lot older than you and I've worked all my life, it's the same thing. Sometimes it's better not to think how much is in dollars. Regarding my sons, I have two teenagers. One is 22 and the other one is 20. And at home, what happens, it's the two opposite sides. For instance, one of my sons that was always partying at school and always got bad grades. And this year he started university, so it was a big challenge. And we got pandemic for like 7 months inside our homes without going anywhere. 7 months. So not a curfew. We were locked down like in a jail in our homes. We weren't even able to go to the supermarket together. So it was very tough emotionally. But with one of my sons, what happened is he started studying, and he focused and he concentrated on his studies. He had the time, he couldn't go anywhere, he couldn't party. So for him, on the academic level, the pandemic helped him to focus. And in one of he has everything 8 and 9 and 10. So that was pretty good. But on the other side, he feels alone, without being able to see his mates, without being able to go anywhere the whole year. He's facing that feeling of loneliness, right? And now people are going out and they're having new groups, and he's feeling a bit alone. What I'm trying to focus, being a mom with Nicholas, my youngest, it's trying for him to realize what he has done, right? That he took advantage of the pandemic to put all his heart and passion into his new career. He got great results, and it will come a time that he will be able to go out again and party again and see friends or meet new friends. So in a way, what I would say as a coach and as a mom, there's always a good side to everything. And we have to set our eyes into trying to see the good side. In this case, having a pandemic, right? My other son, on the contrary, he wanted to start finding a job. He was doing interviews, pandemic came, and he was all alone in his apartment. I didn't see him for about a month, and he's like 5 blocks from my home, until I finally decided to go and see him, even though it wasn't permitted to get out of my house, but I wanted to be with my son. And it's been tough with him. He has anxiety issues, a bit of depression, and not being able to actually do much the whole year. He was not into virtual studies or courses. I tried for him to get into different activities, but no. So when I had left, and he's doing better, he started therapy, and I started to have more quality time with him as a mom. And sometimes we need our children to let us know when they feel they're sad, they're anxious, they're scared. So talk to your parents, ask for help, and and try to find, I think of the kids that are suffering all this, is trying to find things they like to do, at least with the family. Family has to be a great support in this time, these times we're living. So I have a bit of everything. And also regarding my career and my job, I find ways to cope. It was a hard year, but as I told before, we have to start looking life with different eyes and finding beauty, collateral beauty in whatever happens. And there's always some sort of blessing that comes with, with difficult times. So that would be a bit my position. And
yeah.
I'm very happy that 2020 is ending, but we have to always keep going and try to reach, check our emotions. We have to let ourselves feel when we're having a bad time, and not to not to avoid them. If we are anxious, okay, let us be anxious. If we are sad, we have to express our sadness and talk about it. And instead of just eating your emotions or drinking your emotions or whatever that makes you numb those emotions. So I would say, like here in Apprentice and even at home in the countries you are, find friends, good people, or come to us whenever you need somebody to with whom to talk. So that would be a bit more my experience.
Well, if I merge, so thank you, Mariana,
Yep.
and I pray a lot for you and for your kids. They're also like my kids, and I'm always on top of them, bugging them. I grab them and put them in Apprentice, whatever it takes to have them in the mix. But talking about people that are in the mix, so I actually, if I merge the two Laharas, we would have a May Altilio, because believe it or not, May is an author and a writer as well, and a life coach. And she's been doing that for 10 years. And I actually, went through the process of her book and celebrated it, 10 years ago when she put it out. So she's in a journey earlier. You guys are a little earlier in that process. But one person that I got drawn to because of her attitude was Ivana. Ivana, I don't know where you get that energy, but let me tell you, in the pandemic, you actually inspired me to reach out to you, and little did you know. So I got to know your sister, but your sister brought us together back again, and I'm so proud of you, number one, and number two. I know you're doing this for society as a general. I know, just to show people that you can get out of this mess. I know when you were depressed, you decided, oh no, you know what? I'm gonna travel the world. I don't know how you do it, but why don't you share some advice to people that feel depressed and all this stuff?
Yeah,
through
I
your
want
experience.
to thank you, Hernan. Thank you. I want to say something because earlier, when two of you mentioned about living through depression and all that, I have to say that I was, since a young kid, I was so I was so focused on like trying to make people happy, trying to make people smile. I don't want my family to drink antidepressants. I don't like when my mom drinks pills. Like that doesn't make sense to me. Depression is a lie. I grew up with that mindset, like rejecting, ignoring, and almost like repelling that. And then beautiful thing happened in 2018. I went through a very deep, dark moment, and it was beautiful because I had suicidal thoughts. I didn't leave my bed for 3 days. It was crazy, but it was beautiful because I learned to be empathetic to those who I used to reject. I used to be, that toxic positivity, like, oh, come on, like, forget about that, just keep going. And where you ignore others' feelings and you ignore others' thoughts and you ignore their reality, the reality they're creating for themselves, which sometimes they don't have the ability or the tools to create something different. So after that, I think for me, everything changed. And then what you're talking about this year, one tip, something that works for me and has worked, and I don't mean to come and evangelize or talk about God, or I don't mean to do that, but something I have grown to accept and to take in with all my heart is that whenever I think something is going wrong, whenever I think an opportunity has gone away, whenever I think it's dark, what I know for sure is that I am just like a seed planted, and I just think to myself, like, this is hard, I don't have the tools, I don't know what the hell is going on, I have to cry, I have to release, I have to let myself feel, but I have to know that this has a purpose. And in the pandemic, which is what you were talking about, when I'm doing my PhD in Michigan, we got kicked out of school, this sent back home, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not going home, because I'm not at 30, I'm not going to go lock myself down with my mom and my dad after living by myself in the US 9 years. And I was going to get married, and I was going to do like my whole life plan, and all that went to someplace else. So the the point is that on that moment, when I went back to like my faith, and the only thing that's certain for me is that I always have the opportunity to create. That's the only thing that's certain for me. And then in that moment, I decided, you know what? I am going to the Nordic countries, the happiest countries in the world. I am going to create a project. I am going to interview people. I am going to live this pandemic from a whole nother lens, where security is a given, where you can walk at 3 a.m. drunk, naked. Nobody's going to touch you. Nobody's going to say anything. I didn't try that, but I'm just saying, like, the levels of security that we have there compared to our countries. But the point is that I feel, even though I feel it's very important that we look at the situation, and that we talk about the situation, and that we do everything we can to make it better, to heal it, to put that little light in this dark room. But I also think what we are only committing to do in most sense is to like fix the fruit, and we forget about the roots. So like, if you take out the fruit because you don't like it, the root is going to grow back. And this pandemic, we're almost done with it, and it has had its toll on us. But then what's the next thing that will again make that fruit and bring the problem about? So I think it's more about, we need to forget about teaching ourselves and our kids and people around us to achieve, and we need to remember they need to become. We need to forget about teaching them to pursue goals and to pursue purpose. We need to teach by example, that it's not about speaking or reacting or having an active role or being someone. It's about breathing and embracing and accepting and making the best out of reality, out of what you have and what you are. So it's about, I think, obviously we are in the situation, and we must build around it and through it, grow through it the best we can. And we can always do better, and find tools and find people and find love and be light to ourselves and others. But then I also think it's about not making this a situation to solve, but making this a lesson to learn, to avoid things like this in the future. Not avoid maybe, but like reduce the risk. It's, how they say, it's easier to raise healthy kids than to heal sick adults. And when it's us sick adults, because I say sick because we're taught all those things that I mentioned instead of the other ones, it's inevitable. We are really doing the best we can, even if that is just taking our lives away, because we feel there's nothing else or better we can do. So I think it's about, seeing long term, and not only like, how can I solve this problem today, but like, how can I take whatever I'm learning and being right now to the future, and then being comfortable with uncertainty, because even in uncertainty, there's one thing that can be certain, and is that, this too shall pass, and it has a gift for me, even if I can't see it right now.
So I wanted to speak, but I know.
Wow.
I can let Ivana talk for hours. But let me, Ivana, thank you for that. And I'll share something with you. We have a lot of things in common. We can spend a few hours talking because I went through that same situation. And the evolution, by the way, I was a young adult minister for 10 years with my wife. My wife and I were ministering to young adults that were suffering from depression, anxiety, that wanted to get married and didn't know all these issues. And I looked at it from a spiritual perspective. And it took a toll on me personally, because I would hear these stories spent till 3-4 o'clock in the morning trying to solve the problems. When I realized I needed a break, and then I reinvented my ministry work, because those that are Christian and spiritual. I'll share with you that the only reason why Apprentice Worldwide has grown and it is what it is because it's not about money. It's about people, right? People helping people. And I use the opportunity to talk about business when in reality, what I want is to people to know that we care about them as people, right? Not so much about, I have accolades till tomorrow, right? I was the head of Latin America for the largest bank in the United States. I could talk about myself all day long and my accomplishments, and that takes me nowhere, because life is not about me. It's about others, right? And helping others, converting ourselves to help others. And since we're talking about conversion and helping others, I want to help the Spanish speakers as well. And we have a limited time. So I know Sebastian is in the corner, so I'm going to do a favor and switch to Spanish with Sebastian. So, Sebastián, pausa y bienvenido a la parte número 2 en español. Sé que te salvaste, papá. Sebastián, gran amigo. Cuando yo estaba, cuando mi mamá falleció en el 2017 y yo estaba caminando las vías del emprendimiento, y empecé a retomar el tema a través de mis amigos, esta red que creé yo, tan linda de amigos que me dieron la mano. Sebastián apareció porque un vecino amigo de él era mi ex jefe por 10 años. Entonces, Sebastián pasó por algo similar y ahora él te va a contar qué es lo que está haciendo, pero pasó de un tema que todavía lo hace muy bien, el tema de logística, su carrera espectacular en una de las empresas más grandes de América Latina, y ahora ayudando a la gente. Cuéntame de tu historia, Seba.
Bueno, gracias, Hernán. Sí, bueno, yo conocí a Hernán en el 2017, venía llegando acá a Estados Unidos. Siempre había trabajado y creo que, tal como decía Ivana, siempre fui enfocado en el logro, en quién iba a ser. Ya había hecho todas mis credenciales y todo, y mi señora decidimos viajar a Estados Unidos, cambiarnos de país y empezar de nuevo. Y yo dije, bueno, las mismas aptitudes que ya tenía para ser gerente o otras cosas allá, serán las mismas necesidades que yo puedo ser un emprendedor y puedo ser lo que quiera. Y la verdad, me encontré con una realidad que no estaba esperando, me encontré con obstáculos, me encontré con un montón de cosas. Y como yo estaba acostumbrado a los logros, a que eso me definía al final, que era lo que también pasé por un periodo bien difícil. La verdad es que me cuestioné muchas cosas, me quise volver, pero este camino del emprendedor, cuando uno lo empieza a mirar hacia atrás, empieza a encontrarle sentido, ¿no? Empiezas a encontrar algo que es más grande, algo que te llena. Todas estas barreras o struggles que sucedieron donde su momento, al final, tienen un sentido para mí, me hacen más de lo que soy. Hoy en día tengo otro propósito. Este año estoy estudiando para certificarme como coach en la ICF, con una escuela muy linda en Chile. Es más, una compañera que está ahí, que nos está acompañando abajo, Sofía, que ya está en Chile, y la verdad me ha ayudado mucho esta vuelta y este aprendizaje. Y hoy en día me llena mucho conversar, ayudar, acompañar en este proceso que que son de encontrarle sentido. Ivana yo creo que tocó un punto muy fuerte ahí, muy importante, que todo esto que nos pasa hoy en día, este 2020, creo que apresuró